While we remain standing, we take the second stanza as our opening prayer of the national anthem. O God of creation, direct our noble course, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. And we say, Amen. Please, let's be seated. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure that I welcome all of you, but let me recognize and welcome some of our very distinguished guests that are here. I'd like to welcome the Honorable Minister for Education. And we say thank you to you for coming. Malam Adamu, he's here with us. Let's appreciate him. Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of State for Education, Honorable Emeka Nwajuba, is also here with us. We welcome you. Let me welcome the Honorable Minister for Women Affairs, Her Excellency Pauline Tarlin is here with you. We welcome you. We welcome you.
This is the outside broadcast of the Nigerian Television Authority, reaching you from the nation's capital city, Abuja. The program is a launch and presentation report of the University Basic Education 2018 National Personal Audit. On behalf of the outside broadcast crew, I welcome you to the program. I am Rashida Mustafa Olaguju.
Secretary of UBEC, we welcome you. I'd like to welcome all members of the diplomatic corps, all the development partners that are here. Let me especially welcome all the commissioners of education from all the states of the Federation that are here today. I'd like to also welcome all the stakeholders in the basic education space, NGOs, agencies, parastatals. But let me especially welcome the Honorable Minister of Environment, who used to be the chairman of the board of UBEC. Let's put our hands together for him. Amazing. Thank you very much. Your legacy is still singing for you. Let me also welcome here the former Executive Secretary of UBEC, Dr. Hamid Modibo.
The Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, is empowered by the UBA Act of year 2004, Section 9, F and I, to carry out in concert with the state and local government at regular intervals an exercise or program of audit of teaching and non-teaching staff of all basic education institutions across the country, with the aim of establishing a basic education data bank and conduct research on basic education in Nigeria, as well as carry out provide regular information on the number of children of school age in Nigeria.
Providing students with the opportunity to become responsible, equipped to contribute to the economic well-being of their families and communities, and of course to enjoy a productive and satisfying life which basic education can provide. So again, we say thank you to UBEC for bringing us here. Ebere Young is my name. I will not be long. A song is also going to be with me as we guide this program from the very beginning to the end. But to officially and formally welcome all of us, let me invite here the visionary, hardworking, dynamic, and lover of over 90 million Nigerian children, To them, he is a father that wants them to have good education. Please join me as I welcome here the Executive Secretary of UBEC, Dr. Hamid Boboye, to formally welcome all of you. Doctor. I welcome you, sir.
This one? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The Honorable Minister of Education, Malang Adamu, the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Pauline Talen, Honorable Minister of Environment, the Minister of State for Education, the representative of the Minister of FCT are here present, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, the Honorable Commissioners of Education from various states of the Federation, accompanied by the Chairman of SUBEB, members of the National Assembly here present, our former executive secretaries, deputy executive secretaries, our various stakeholders in the education sector, including our development partners, our invited guests from different parts, of the basic education sector, members of our board, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and with all honor and humility that I avail myself of this opportunity to welcome you all to this occasion, the launching and public presentation of the report of the 2018 National Personnel Audit of all basic education institutions in Nigeria. We owe a special gratitude to God Almighty for granting us the strength and the wherewithal to undertake this strategic national assignment and to showcase its outcome to the entire nation. Honorable Ministers, Your Royal Highnesses, our stakeholders in the basic education sector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to crave your indulgence to join me in welcoming the Honorable Minister and our distinguished guests who have been able to make it to this occasion today. We must express our deep appreciation to our President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR, for prioritizing education in the development of Nigeria and for his unflinching support to the growth and development of the basic education subsector. For verily, a nation that provides its younger generations with qualitative and functional education is a nation that has secured its future. We also heartily welcome the representative of the chairman of Nigeria's Governors Forum and the executive governor of Ekiti State and other representatives of executive governors here present. Your Excellencies, it was your firm support and active cooperation that facilitated the successful outcome of the National Personnel Audit. We look forward to building a much stronger synergy to sustain the basic education subsector at the next level. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, it is also my pleasure to welcome and duly acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu, supported by the Honorable Minister of State, Honorable Chukwemeka Nwajuba. The enthusiasm and purposeful leadership shown by the Honorable Minister of Education and the Minister of State can be seen from the positive changes taking place within the education sector, including the operationalization of the ministerial strategic plan, which had set the tone for the attainment of great milestones, including the National Personnel Audit. Similarly, I would like to use this opportunity to acknowledge the enormous support of another pillar of education, the Honorable Minister of FCT, Alhaji Muhammad Musa Bello, represented here by the Secretary of Education, FCT. He supported the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu, in launching the National Personnel Audit in May 2018 and had contributed to lend his support throughout the exercise. Thank you, sir, for moving education forward in the FCT. The Commission is also honored by the presence of two ministers, Dr. Mahmoud Muhammad Abubakar, the Honorable Minister of Environment, and the immediate past chairman of UBEC's governing board. The Commission benefited immensely from his wealth of experience, from his inexhaustible energy, and his giant strides at consensus building. We had together traversed every geopolitical zone in this country to oversee the National Personnel Audit activities. Honorable Minister, we wish you good guidance in your new assignment. Similarly, we also wish to extend the same gratitude to the Honorable Minister, Women Affairs, who is very kind enough to grace this occasion. Madam, we welcome you, and we thank you immensely for the support. Since you came on board, you made your intention of building synergy with the education sector and with UBEC, especially in the area of girl-child education. We will support you in this venture. We will work with you to ensure that each and every girl in Nigeria goes to school and receives a functional and qualitative education. It is also my pleasure to welcome the distinguished chairman of the education committees in the National Assembly, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam and Honorable Professor Julius Hombare, as well as other distinguished senators and honorable members here present. Your support so far to the education sector in general and basic education subsector in particular has been remarkable and has begun to yield the desired results. We wish, in the same vein, to welcome our distinguished guest who has spared time to grace this occasion, including members of the UBEC Governing Board, executive secretaries of all our sister agencies, directors and staff of the Federal Ministry of Education, honorable commissioners of education from the states, executive chairman of SUBEPS, our former executive secretaries, international development partners, including UNICEF, UNESCO, World Bank, and DFID, the National Space Research Development Agency, National Bureau of Statistics, and the National Population Commission. NAPS, that represent private institutions, and other distinguished guests. We thank you all. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, my welcome address will not be complete without making reference to few salient issues. Firstly, the National Personnel Audit was an exercise that brought together all the key stakeholders at different levels of government and from different agencies, including the private sector, to make the project a reality. Nigeria needed basic education data for planning and effective management of the subsector. It is therefore gratifying to see our stakeholders contributing their rightful quota in this national exercise. Secondly, through the 2018 National Personnel Audit, we have been able to acquire the global positioning system, the GPS coordinates of all schools in Nigeria covered by the census. The geospatial data generated has proven exceptionally useful in building a geographic information system to support school mapping and other applications, as we would see in subsequent presentations. We thank NASDRA for its assistance in this regard, as well as Grade 3 of the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget, and National Planning. Thirdly, and for the first time, the exercise involved not only public schools, but private and faith-based institutions. Despite initial suspicions, most of these institutions came to embrace the exercise and to cooperate with UBEC and its partners to make the exercise a success. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, despite these successes, there are still data gaps which must be taken care of as we move forward in sustaining our educational databases. Data collection, collation, and analysis is a continuous exercise, and we must continue to update the current data sets we have at our disposal. Since 2018, a lot of activities have taken place in the basic education subsector. Thousands of teachers have been employed. Several thousands of classrooms have been built and renovated. Most importantly, new schools, both public and private, have been established. These updates would need to be integrated into the database to ensure the relevance, efficacy, and effectiveness of our national educational data systems. Honorable Minister, our distinguished guest, the Universal Basic Education Commission is highly pleased to inform this august gathering that it has, working with its partners at the state and local government levels, put in place a dynamic data collection regime that will see to the periodic update of the new national education database, basic education database, beginning from January 2020. The technical training has been completed, and states are being assisted to acquire the requisite hard and software to set up functional data units that would feed into the national database after the necessary validation processes. Your Excellency, we are confident that working together, Nigeria shall have a robust database that will meet the planning needs of the education sector and shall, by Allah's grace, move the basic education subsector to greater heights during your tenure as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. With these words, please accept once again our utmost gratitude and warm felicitation. Thank you and God bless.
Dr. Amit Boboede, the Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, given a brief rundown of what the National Personnel Audit is all about, its conduct, and what it aimed to achieve. Let's bring to your notice that before this present exercise that the result is being presented today, The Commission had successfully conducted 2 national personal audits before the 2018. That is in 2006 and the year 2010. It is also worthy of mention that this present or the last personal audit, it's unique in the sense that
appreciate and welcome the permanent
it did not
secretary
only cover
of the Federal Ministry of Education,
public basic education in Nigeria,
he's here with us. We
but
welcome you. And Dr.
private,
Norma,
both non-registered and non-registered
UB
private
board
basic education
is
in
also
Nigeria,
in our
with the
midst.
aim of giving them
Your
necessary
Excellencies,
support
distinguished ladies and
in the
gentlemen,
areas where they are having
somebody once
challenges
said
to
that
enhance basic education in
is the
Nigeria.
bridge from mystery to hope. The 2 men that I'm about to invite here are not only former chief executives of UBEC, but they also understand the fact that education is indeed the bridge from mystery to hope. So to give us a general overview of the MPA data, let me welcome the chairman of the technical committee and the vice, Professor Gidado Tahir and Professor Charles Anocha, deputy chairman, to step forward here and give us a general overview. I welcome the 2 of you.
Honorable Minister of Education, the Honorable Minister of State, Honorable Ministers present, distinguished stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome every one of us to this session of our presentation. It's a single presentation, but will be taken by 4 of us. Our colleague from NASDRA, from grade 3, and Dr. Aminu, who will take you first through the general overview of the data. Our basic education schools by levels. From what we can see, the ECCD schools are 81,000. Some 179 standalone and 79,000 are existing in primary schools. Primary school in the country are 113,450. 63 of these are public schools, representing 56%, while 50,000 are for the private providers. Junior secondary schools are 31,017. Public providers are lower than the private providers. 60% of the junior secondary schools are from the private providers. Now, what is the situation with schools at the zonal level? The national picture is there. Northeast has the least number of ECC centers, 4,930, whereas Southwest has the highest. For the primary school, it's a different picture. The Southeast has the least, 11,000, whereas the Southwest has the highest of 27,000. At the GS level, Northeast has 3,416, the Southwest 7,978. That's a picture of number of schools. What is the enrollment pattern from the MPA results? Nationally, we have 10,635 and 53 schools. So enrollment 10,653,978, representing 25% of the schools in the country. Public schools are 31.2 million. Nationally, we have 41.8 children enrolled in all of our schools. Now, qualified teachers and unqualified. We're taking the top 5 and then the bottom 5. Ekiti, for example, has 89% qualified teachers. Benue follows, and Osun is 5th on that ranking. The bottom 5, Sokoto 48, Yobe 63. Others are within the band. At the zonal level, the picture becomes clearer. North Central has the highest number of teachers at the CCD level. We have this 62% of the teachers from the North Central. And for Southwest, the picture is such that unqualified teachers are more in the Southwest. For primary school, Northwest has 57% of our qualified teachers. That is the least qualified. North Central has the highest with 69%. Other zones fall in between and close to the national average. Now, qualification by JSS. Again, the North Central tops with 79%. Southeast is close to that, also 79%. South is least 71%. However, the zones are also close to the national average. Teacher deficit. From what we have there, at the ECCD level, 34 states on the 37 have problems with qualified teachers. But the picture is clearer if we look at Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom has 15,000 teacher deficit at the ECCD level. Kano has 17,000. Lagos has 13. At the primary school level, Akwa Ibom is problematic. Akwa Ibom has 30,000. Kaduna has 15,000 deficit. Kano has 28,000 deficit. And Katsina has 25,000 deficit. These 4 states at the primary school level account for about 72% of teacher deficit in the country. At the JS level, only 2 states have deficit. Imo, 936. Katsina, 1,150. I'm sorry, the pointer is not functioning. Now let's go to classrooms. The picture for classroom situation in the country vis-a-vis good classrooms is such that Northwest and Southeast top the list of deficits, 76%, whereas Southwest has the highest, 89% classrooms available for ECCD. At the primary level, Northeast has only 53% classrooms available. The Southwest has 81%. At the junior secondary school level, Southeast has 68% available. Southwest has 80% available. The other zones are hanging around the national average of 75%. Now, classroom deficit. At the CCD level, Kano, 12,000. Kano has 12,000 of the 64,000 deficit. The primary school level, the same picture of deficit with teachers. Akwa Ibom, 23,000. Kaduna, 20,000. Kano, 52,000. Katsina, 33,000. Again, these four states account for about 56% of classroom deficit in the country. At the GS level, well, the states are there with deficits, but apart from Katsina and Imo, none is outrageously outlandish. Number of learners furniture in the country. At the CCD level, we have 1.57 million learner furnitures items. Southeast has the list of 76,000, whereas the Southwest has about 500,000 items. For the primary level, a total of 6.8 million furniture items in the schools. This is an improved picture. The Northeast has 594,000. The Southwest has 1.7 million. Northwest, 1.3 million. At the GS level, 2.7 million furniture items available in our schools. Again, Southeast has 238,000. Southwest has 722,000. Furniture deficit. Every state has deficit for furniture. Every state at the three levels. But for the ECCD, number 8 Borno State has 91% deficit. Katsina State, 87%. Kano, 93%. Yobe, 91% at the primary, at the ECC level. At the primary level, Jigawa has 80% deficit. Kano, again, has 91% deficit. Kebbi, 91% deficit. Yobe, 89% deficit. Sokoto, 85% deficit. At the JS level, we range is so close. Although Ekiti has 41% deficit, which is low. Kwara has 38% deficit. The picture is not too embarrassing at this level, but for ECCD and primary, it is embarrassing. We have that states like Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, more or less have high passenger deficit at the ECCD and primary school level. The consequences are that over 90% or 93% of these states have children that sit on the floor. This took account of provisions by the state or local government and those who carry furniture to school. So a state that has 91% and 3% deficit is telling us that only 7% of the children sit on furniture items, others on the bare floor or on improvised cement blocks. What are the policy implications? We expect our government at all levels to look into this critically and intervene so that our children will sit on appropriate and adequate furniture for teaching and learning. If that is not done, we will not have created an environment that is conducive for teaching and learning for our children. At this point, I'd like to invite my colleague, Dr. Bichi, to take the remaining slides on the data, after which my colleague from NASRA and grade 3 will also come up and conclude the presentation. Dr. Bichi.
That's the representative of the chairman of the technical committee of the 2018 National Personal Audit of the Universal Basic Education there, giving an insight into the findings of the exercise. He pointed out where we have certain challenges as regarding deficits in personnel infrastructures, where it is more noticeable, that is the zones, regarding infrastructures and personnel. And let's quickly tell you that some of the main objectives of this exercise is to obtain comprehensive and reliable data of children of school age and what is necessary to provide a conducive and comfortable learning environment for both the students and the teachers. The exercise is also geared towards obtaining the number of teachers, not only teachers in our basic education sector, but their qualification and where we find them lacking, how to enhance their performance in our classrooms or in the institutions generally. Also, the exercise will enable us to know the certain number of the out-of-school children that we have in Nigeria presently, because we've been having different figures of out-of-school children in Nigeria.
We'll continue now, although he prefers to be called Dr. Abinobichi.
Yeah. Probably, thank you. The next is gross and net enrollment rates, GRR and NER, which measures general level of participation of the school-age population, includes coverage and underage learners in the system. The NER shows the actual coverage of school-going age population belonging to a particular level of education. In this note, we can see the gross and net enrollment rate for ECC is national is 41%, and for net enrollment is 31%, meaning that the gross enrollment rate is 41%, which the remaining are out of school. For primary school, the national is 68%. That is the gross enrollment rate in primary school is 68%, and 60% the net enrollment rate. For junior secondary school, the national rate is 46 and 33%. That of geopolitical zones, for instance, North Central has 36 and 27, Northeast 24 and 18, Northwest 40% and 30%, Southeast 51% and 40%, South-South 46% and 33%, and Southwest 48% and 39% for ECCE. For primary school, primary education, North Central has 67% GER and 67% NER. North East has 64% GER and 55% NER. North West has 71% GER and 61% NER. Southeast has 70% GER and 64% NER. South-South has 66% GER and 59% NER. And Southwest had 69% GER and 61% NER. For junior secondary school, North Central has 41% GER and 31% NER. Northeast had 37% GER and 27% NER. And Northwest, 41% GER and 30% NER. Southeast, 56% GER and 42% NER. Then South-South, 49% GER and 34% NER. And Southwest, 54% GER and 37% NER. The next slide. And dropout rate. For dropout rate, in this context is the number of learners that are no longer in school system against the total enrollment in primary and junior secondary school. That's the interpretation of the dropout rate. And for the national, we have for primary school 1.50%, then for junior secondary school 1.92%. And North Central has 1.91% for primary school, then 2.47% for junior secondary school. Northeast, 1.64% for primary, 2.50% for junior secondary school. Northwest, 1.02% for primary, and 1.79% for junior secondary school. Southeast, 1.35% for primary, and 1.90% for junior secondary school. South-South, 1.18% for primary, 1.98% for junior secondary school. The Southwest, 2.32% for primary, and 1.36% for junior secondary school. Then retention rate. This is the rate of retention in schools, the percentage, the proportion. For national, the retention rate for primary school as percent is 1.67%. North Central has 2.53%, Northeast 1.82%, Northwest 1.40%, Southeast 1.44%, and South-South 3.02%, and Southwest 1.05%. The retention rate for junior secondary schools, the national is 2.33%. North Central has 1.80%, Northeast 1.88%, Northwest 2.08%, Southeast 0.76%, South-South 2.55%, and Southwest 4.20%. The one with the arrow are the highest and the lowest. This is the proportion of out-of-school children. And the out-of-school children was computed using a standard formula which was developed by the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, looking at the proportion of the school-going age in school, and then we get the number of out-of-school. The first chart shows the proportion of in-school, the proportion of school-going age which is for primary school 6 to 11 year. The estimate was 40,841,946. This is the estimated school-going age 6 to 11 years. Then number of pupils in school at the same age category range is 30,648,028. So the total out of school now is 10,193,918. The distribution of out of school by gender, male is 6,340,623, which constitute 62%. Then for female, 3,853,294, which constituted 38%. So the distribution by zone, the national in school, 75%, and out of school, 25%, making total of 100%. So this is the zonal distribution. North Central, 74% in school and 26% out of school. Northeast, 67% in school and 33% out of school. Northwest, 75% in school, 25% out of school. Southeast, 81% in school, 19% out of school. South-South, 76% in school, 24% out of school. Southwest, 78% in school, and 22% out of school. Thank you very much.
More insights there on the findings of the 2018 National Personnel Audit. This time around with focus on the numbers of children that are enrolled in school, the numbers of enrollment and retention in school. What is actually responsible for them not being in school after being enrolled is also another issue that the committee is going to address as time goes on.
Data to the information that is generated. The whole idea is for training, collection of data, and then building of geospatial database that is supposed to be integrated. I mean, that is integrated into a map, and then in part of the agreement or part of the relationship is that NASDA trained 399 participants. That is 222 staff of UBEC, and then 77 officers from other ministries, departments, and agencies. And the whole idea was to use the global navigation system to acquire the data, that is to collect the coordinates of the areas, that is the schools, and then other facilities for actual mapping, which was collected and inputted into geodatabase. And then conduct on-the-spot verification of the data using satellite imageries to review, inspect, and test the coordinates of schools acquired, so as to ensure the geospatial database of very high quality, and to develop the geospatial database for the basic education sector. And then also to identify the spatial distribution or to also display the spatial distributions of schools in the nation. Now, the maps that we are going to show are providing information, and that is what we call geographic information system, to show the power of displaying what was acquired in the field. Now, this is the data spatial distribution of primary schools in Nigeria, and one can, from just looking at this, can tell where primary schools were not well covered, didn't cover. If you look at the area in Borno State, especially where you have crisis, one can easily imagine that a lot of schools are not there. When you come to areas towards Delta, if you go towards the the other side of Niger State too, you can see that it is sparsely populated with primary schools. Now, this is the junior secondary school. It almost took the same pattern, but again, there are some distinctions, because if you look at the areas of Sokoto, Kebbi, and the rest, when you come to look at the junior secondary school, you discover that it is not as populated as it was as the primary school was. So you have sparse population of junior secondary schools, especially in most part of Nigeria. Now, we picked a case of FCT, and if you look at FCT towards the northwest, east-west, east-south, you'll see that you have sparse population. But look at Abuja, look at Gwagwalada, look at the municipal, look at the area of Kwali. But when you move to Kuje, you'll see that both primary and secondary school, because the primary school is also indicated there, and then the secondary school is indicated, you see how sparse the schools are. And that is telling you the distance which students will have to travel to go to schools. Now, this is primary and junior secondary school distribution in Katsina. Now, if you look at the areas of the southwest, you see what we have there. You see sparse, that place is sparsely populated with schools. If you look towards the west too, you see that you don't have enough schools there. The idea is for it to give you at a glance where the locations of the schools are, and then whether they are adequate or not. Now, part of the exercise, try to put, because the beauty is to put the coordinates on a satellite image. That is a high resolution satellite image. And at any time you click on it, it's supposed to provide you this kind of information. If you look at what you have Sabwa Ungwa New Extension Primary School. And apart from the latitude and longitude, it's telling you the name of the state, and then the school name, town, whether it is public or private, then conventional urban primary school only. So you have a lot of information generated with that data, and you can carry out a lot of analysis from the data too. This is another primary school in Ire Akari Primary School, that is Ele-Samanja, Lagos. The same kind of information is generated here, and it is within an urban area. You also have the same in Dalakano, and you can see the location, how high the place is, how high and densely the place is populated. So you also have State Model Primary School in Borikiri, that is River State. So if you look at most of the information generated, you can expand the data. You can put in any other thing that you want. It's expandable. So as the exercise continues, just like the Executive Secretary said, he said that there are a lot of areas of expansion and there are needs for update. This is another model primary school that is at Metama here in Abuja. This is Central School, Imani, Kogi State. One can easily get a direction from here, because what you see here is you want a direction to go to the school. Once you are on Google or any data, once you click directions to here or from here, definitely it will guide you to the school where it is located. Now you also have this in Taraba State. So thank you so much.
Insight into the reports being given today. And let's let you know that to give credibility to the exercise, external monitors were involved in monitoring of the field activities. to ensure that all the data collected were adequate. We have the Civil Society Action Coalition on Education and the international development partners in this exercise.
Anchored by the Honorable Minister of Finance, as well as Honorable Minister of State Budget and National Planning, that aims to provide coordinated facilitation of the application of geospatial data for better decision making in Nigeria. And I'm also happy to note that the Honorable Minister of Education is a member of the Grade 3 Steering Committee. And what we did in Grade 3 in partnership with UBEC is to take the NPA data, which for the first time is being geospatially enabled, to the next level. And what do I mean? By ensuring that we apply the Grade 3 fundamental core layers, one of which is the population estimate that we have at 100 by 100 meter gridded cell, which is the most accurate in terms of identifying how many people live where in every part of Nigeria, to use that foundation and apply the NPA data to come up with some solutions that can help to address problem of out of school and by extension quality of education. So briefly, I would like to make a presentation around how we are able to apply that for better decision making. So this slide, Your Excellencies, shows the map of Nigeria on the left. What we did is that we applied the population estimate that is very accurate and interplay with the NPA data to come up with child-oriented indicators that can help UBEC in terms of better planning. And it's very clear, the national policy, Your Excellency, says every child should be within 2-kilometer radius to an existing school, whether public or private. This is a government statement. So what we did is that we identified all the over 110,000 public and private primary schools in Nigeria and draw up a population estimate around 2-kilometer radius to determine how are we able to absorb those very critical population. What we use is we use 5 to 10 years old, which is a subset of the 6 to 11 year population group for primary enrollment in Nigeria. And the result is very clear, Your Excellencies. Where we want to see darker yellow, which gives you 95 to 100% of our children, but you can see in some states in Taraba, Adamawa, Borno, Yobe, and part of Niger and Zamfara state, and also very importantly around Ogun and Ondo, the population of children within 2-kilometer radius is as small as 35%. This is really very important. And when we looked at the second map of Nigeria, broken by local government, is the enrollment data that we got from UBEC. What we did now, we established a very clear correlation between distance, which is an issue of access, and enrollment numbers. So there is this very clear correlation as you see the enrollment as a reported percentage of the fraction of population on the right side of the Nigeria map. And it's very clear where the problems are. Now, what we did is we were able to establish, Your Excellencies, that with the UBEC data that we got for 2018, that over 10% of Nigerian children aged between 5 to 10 years are further away 2 kilometers from any existing school. And these numbers, when you put them in actual numbers, they are about 2.6 million kids. And it means potentially, because the access, the distance is an issue, that these kids may critically be missing out of school. And the density is very clear also. You can see where it is as less as between 150, the yellow, and then the darker number where the challenge is much. When you further take it out, to give you an example of Katsina State, we have this data up to the level of ward. All the over 9,500 wards in Nigeria, we have their critical analysis that can help to inform decision. And in Katsina, you see clearly where the problem is. It's somewhere around Kaita, Axis, as well as somewhere around Kankia, where you see the population of children that are outside 2 kilometers radius are very high. Now, the question is, where do we really need to build additional schools in order for us to address this out-of-school phenomenon, especially aligning with the ministerial strategic plan? And the answer is also very clear. What we did is that we developed a tool that is able to simulate and identify areas where we need a critical attention to. It's called our optimization, it's called Grade 3 optimization tool. And what it does is that anywhere there is no school and there are a population of kids, it tends to prioritize where these areas should have additional school. So it's really beyond politics or sentiment. It's pure science that tells you, look, this place has a lot of kids and they don't have school, and you need to invest there in those places. So this is the national coverage, and you can see clearly, based on the information that we had, over 110,000 primary schools from the UBEC data, it is able to give us yellow, where we need to rapidly invest our resources to really address out-of-school children. Now, when we take a little bit into deep dive into Katsina as an example, if the governor of Katsina has resources for only 50 schools, or he has resources for 150 schools, our optimization tool is able to give the governor and the state the best locations where there are no schools and where we have critical mass of young children that are in dire need for us to have them all on board into schools. So the first one is based on simulation of 50, and you can see the spatial distribution of where our tool is telling us to really build schools there to address these children. When you have more money, you will have more yellows, and you can imagine the first 50 is where the critical needs are in. Then the remaining will be a build-up. And it also implies area of Kaita as well as the Kankia axis that I have mentioned. Let's go out of Katsina and come to Bauchi. And the same optimization tool, if His Excellency the Governor of Bauchi wants to really drive out of school agenda, starting with 50 schools, we know where the problems are. It's in Ningi axis, Itas Gadao, Shira local government, and Alkaleri. It's as simple as that. And if he has more money, then the expansion becomes more deeper to address other places. Now the question is, how many more schools do we need for us to address all our challenges of access? What we did in our estimation is that for Nigeria to get over 99% of all the children that are within school age group, we need to, within 2 kilometers, then we need 20,000 additional schools to what we have. From the over 111,000 UBEC, we have a geocoordinate location of 108,000. This is our worst case scenario, Your Excellency, sir. It means that with additional data from those states that NPA was not able to pick, like Borno, Benue, part of Zamfara and Kaduna State, then our estimates will go down. So this is our worst case scenario. But very importantly, Your Excellency, the first 5,000 schools are the most critical and crucial. Why? Because it gives you point location where the density of children that are outside 2 kilometers, heavily populated, and they do not have school. So if we are able to really invest in this, we can be able to reach up to 96% of these critical children within 2 kilometers. As we build up, of course, diminishing return will come in, but still in the spirit of leaving no one behind, which His Excellency the President has repeatedly mentioned, then equity dimension need to come into play to ensure that those other children in faraway remote places are also optimally absorbed so that equity is able to help us address everybody's need. Now, from out of school, access issue to quality issue. Your Excellencies, the National Education Policy says that for quality education to happen, we should have a ratio of 1 teacher to 35 pupils. And using the 2018 UBEC data, what we did was to lay out at the level of LGA and ward. We have this data up to ward level to establish how many teachers are there in relation to the total number of schools from the UBEC data of 2018, so that we have a sense as to where is really the challenge. Because we believe strongly that the number ratio is a proxy indicator for quality of education. Unfortunately, based on the data, sir, we've seen where in local governments that the ratio is high as 1 to 300. We have seen where the ratio is within the minimum level of 1 to 35. As you look at this map, these areas of Nasarawa and part of Kogi and Benue are really doing very well. But part of, this is Akwa Ibom, I think, yes, and areas around Kano, Katsina, they are really not doing very well in terms of this cumulative ratio of student, pupil to teacher. And this is really a big statement for policy direction to really rapidly address this issue. When we blow it down to a level of the state, you see the disparities are even more clearer. And as you go down to the ward level, the problem becomes much more clearer for better decision making. And here, you can see in Katsina, as an example, we see where there are adequate enough between 0 to 35 along these corridors that are well structured here. But as you go up there, you see that the ratio becomes a little bit too out of scope for quality learning. So the question is, assuming all the children within this 2 kilometer ratio that we have need to be in school, and using the current total numbers of teachers qualified from UBEC NPA, how many additional teachers do we need in Nigeria? And this left one gives you the number of teachers needed in 2 kilometers to achieve this 1 to 35 national policy ratio. And where you see dark red, particularly along Ogun-Lagos axis, and this part of Nigeria and Kano, Sokoto, that is where we need to put more, because the current ratio is not enough to take us where we need to be. And finally, it's about prioritizing the actual number of teachers aligned to each of a particular local government or state. And this is really a very important consideration for us as we move towards the next level agenda, where no child is left behind, for us to achieve the quality basic education for the future of Nigeria. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. That's the overview that kicks off with
More insight into the reports there, with focus on where the areas where we are found wanting in the education or basic education sector, talking about what we need to do to attain the necessary access and retention and enrollment of Nigerian children into school. what we need to do to ensure that the 1 year compulsory education for the early childhood development care is in place, and the 6 year of age primary school students, what is lacking and what needed to be put in place to get to the desired stage.
He's going to make the goodwill message on behalf of the World Bank. Let's receive him with a warm welcome.
Your Excellencies, our dear old Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, all the ministers here present, and ably supported by the Honorable Minister of State, Honorable Chukwemeka Iwajoba, and of course our own Executive Secretary, Professor Ahmed Boboyi, and the Nigerian Palace. Let me stand on the existing protocol. Let me say up front, the World Bank is very pleased to be associated with this exercise. It is a value added and is going to help us to improve the basic education service delivery in Nigeria. Because whatever you cannot measure, you cannot improve. So this exercise is an attempt by the Universal Basic Education Commission led by our own Professor Boboyi, and they've been able to provide an really exceptional effort in terms, and commendable one for that matter, to be able to capture school data. This is very significant because the school does not move. So there is only one geo-coordinate, the longitude and the latitude. You can only create more school. So this is an effort of everybody in Nigeria should be able to associate with in terms of how do we move education forward in Nigeria. I want to say the World Bank is very pleased with this, and we will continue to work with the government because it covers all the states. Like they said, both students, staff, teachers, infrastructure, public, private, Islamia, formal, non-formal, and of course the infrastructure and all the community faith-based institutions. This is very unique because all along it has been very difficult to count and to know the number of schools, the number of children. So this is very, very good attempt. We want to say that as far as the World Bank is concerned, we'll continue to work with government because we see this as an effective tool for policy dialogue. Some of the issues the consultants have talked about, it will continue to resonate with all of us, the development partners, to see how we can continue to improve equitable access and, of course, the quality of education in Nigeria. Yes, we need more money for education, but effective and efficient use of resources will also add value to what we are going to do to improve the education system in Nigeria. This exercise, we agree with the UBEC that it needs to be updated regularly. And of course, it's flexible enough to accommodate all the missing gaps. The World Bank is very, very pleased because the exercise has been able to demonstrate variation across states, LGA. And more importantly, when we try to address and look for solutions, It's so obvious to all of us that one jacket cannot fit all. And of course, it can also give us the opportunity to learn from each other so that we don't need to reinvent in terms of how we apply solutions to some of our problems in Nigeria. I want to end by saying this should be an urgent call and to all of us to see this in terms of its urgency to address all the issues that have been raised. There is need for urgent coordination between the states, the federal, the local government, and of course, in terms of how do we address the variance between the annual school census that's regularly is being carried out by the Ministry of Education and this wonderful job that has been done by UBEC in terms of the personnel audit. Since the school does not move, and we are all focusing on the school. So this is the basis. Once we have the unique coordinate for a school, then all of us should rally around. And of course, some states on their own have already been doing something which is very excellent. They don't use Nastra, but they use tablet. I'm very pleased to tell you that Borno State is the only state now in Nigeria that they have not only captured the formal and non-formal, but they are also capturing all the Quranic schools in Borno State. That is, how do we make sure that we support all the Alimajiris and all those people that are not captured now so that they too can be part of our education system? The World Bank will continue to work with the states that are very interested to update, to continue to work with UBEC and the Federal Ministry of Education. We will continue to use the platform or the result-based financing that we have under the BESDA, Better Education Service Delivery, that's being coordinated by our own permanent secretary and the executive secretary of UBEC. We are going to use the platform of the World Bank project that we have working with the government of Nigeria under the leadership of our own Malam Adamu, the NIPE project that we have, the CEPI project that we have, and of course, the BESDA, which is Better Education Service for all children in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was Dr. Tunde Adekola of the World Bank. And of course, he has expressed the commitment of the bank towards improved basic education service delivery in the country. Let's make another applause for him. May I crave your indulgence to invite, to give us a goodwill message, our own Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Pauline Tallinn. Please make welcome for her boldly as she comes to the microphone.
The Honorable Minister of Education, my dear brother, Malam Adamu, the Minister of Environment, the Honorable Minister of State Education, Executive Secretary UBEC, Dr. Hamid Bogoy, former ministers here present, all our development partners, commissioners, delegates, I greet you all. I want to start by commending the Ministry of Education and UBEC for organizing this very important program where we have seen the critical situation that we have on our hands as regards the database of the situation of our schools, the children out of school and those in school. It's mind-blowing, but I want to commend and congratulate the Minister of Education and UBEC because knowing the problem is having half of the problem solved. The situation is frightening, it's mind-blowing, but having seen what NASDA, Grid 3, and all the technical committee for the analysis they've got on ground, it has given us a clear picture to aggressively address the situation. I want to assure the Ministry of Education that my ministry is fully committed to partner closely with them to address this situation. Our children are the future hope of this nation, and the women and children cannot fold their arms and sit back while our children are out of school. I commend you for the good work you've done so far, and together we will aggressively intensify advocacy and work towards having more children in school, and to work with the governors and chairmen at local governments to partner with us and to ensure that the situation is addressed immediately. Once again, I congratulate the Ministry of Education and all our partners. Thank you, and God bless.
Her journey with education didn't start today.
More words of encouragement and commendation there for the exercise, and more pledge to do more for the Nigerian children, for them to have a good education, particularly basic education, which is believed to be the foundation of learning the world over. I remember we informed you earlier that this exercise, that is the 2018 National Personnel Audit, involve the private school, both registered and non-registered. This is so that to ensure that all children learning in any institution across Nigeria are well taken care for and provided for. And also some of the speaker earlier mentioned the Quranic school, how well they were all covered and involved in this exercise.
Thank you very much. So let me quickly... Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to welcome here, all the way from the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, Dr. Rosemary Wago. She also has a very short goodwill message as we begin to celebrate education in Nigeria and the amazing things the ES and his team are doing. Welcome, Dr. Rosemary.
Honorable Minister for Education, Alhaji Adamu Adamu, and Honorable Minister of State for Education, Honorable Emeka Nwajoba, Ministers here, and Director, Executive Secretary UBEC, our own personal person. I beg to stand on all existing protocols. On behalf of UNICEF, I would like to just briefly contain my excitement at the launch of this report. It is really like we've come a long way in this, and the launch of this report to us is a very big statement on the fact that Nigeria has built up, it's been tidying and cooking this underneath, and now is ready to spring forth. We are very, very delighted to be associated with this movement, upwards and forward. And I know that this report will be a very big rallying point for the great work that states are doing in education sector planning, coordinated at the basic level by UBEC also, and drawing their plans for intervention from their strategic plans. I know that this report will help them to bring together the work they are doing, the data challenges they're having. I'm also impressed at the fact that this report has looked at itself, seen gaps that will be filled eventually. And as we always agree at the state level, it's good to move forward with whatever we've got. And we've got something to move forward on. We're very delighted to be part of this. What I would urge the states is to use this data. I think with this public launch of this report, we have moved past the era of saying, oh, we have no data, oh, we don't have. There can be no more gray areas. And whatever we use, as Grade 3 has told us, we interrogate this and get more information out of it than have been presented, because the raw data is with us. I want to commend UBEC for working with national institutions, because the coming together of the three entities like this bringing their expertise from the different places, they will strengthen the system and make information accessible and actually usable across all odds. And then we can be more open with the data that we are sharing on education. And having said that, I want to once more warmly congratulate Nigeria, the education team, and the basic education family on behalf of UNICEF on this wonderful work that has been done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rosemary. Another round of applause for her. She comes to us from DFID, and they've been partners in this process. Let's receive, to give us a goodwill message, Esome Ebike. I thought we'll clap as she comes.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Education and the Honorable Minister of State for Education, all other Honorable Ministers here, Commissioners, SUBEB chairs, directors, the UBE Executive Secretary, I stand on all existing protocols. I bring you greetings from my head of office, the head of DFID Nigeria, Dr. Chris Pycroft. And I stand here to affirm the commitment of the United Kingdom to supporting the government of Nigeria at state and federal levels and partners to enabling all Nigerian children, including girls, to benefit from 12 years of quality education. A pledge which President Buhari affirmed at the Commonwealth Heads of Government Forum in London in 2018. Firstly, I really must commend the efforts of the Executive Secretary and the board and the directors from UBEC. I personally recall the very first meeting we had at the UBE Commission at the start of this process, led by Dr. Boboyi, and it is absolutely wonderful, as my partners in the development community have said, that we are here today to launch this most important report. Well done. We at UKAID, DFID, are especially pleased about the partnership with other agencies, including Grid 3, as DFID funds Grid 3 to work with Nigeria as a priority country. And we are very proud of the work of Dr. Inua and his team, as he presented earlier. And we hope that we all will work together in using the tools that have been made available through this process going forward. As active members of the Education Development Partners Group, we as DFID, along with our partners UNICEF, USAID, the World Bank, UNESCO, and others, will continue to work with you in taking this work forward. For example, through the upcoming education sector analysis work that the Federal Ministry of Education is leading on. Let me take the opportunity, therefore, to give you, as we are here today, some messages from the Education Development Partners Group, which is chaired by USAID. Unsurprisingly, the very first message is to the government is about the importance of institutionalizing robust collection of data, including assessments of student learning, which is why we are extremely pleased to be here today. The second message was about the importance of addressing gender gaps in education attainment, especially in the North. The third message is about defining a fiscally viable package of education inputs to meet the needs of Nigeria's growing population for quality, affordable education. Development partners also want to urge government to overhaul the teacher management systems, including recruitment, deployment, training, performance evaluation, and incentives for teachers. And finally, we want to urge also the need to reorient funding to link to the achievement of outcomes and not just about inputs. As DFID, we have worked with you over the years through a number of programs which you are familiar with, from ESPIN to EDORAN to the Teacher Development Program, TDP. And I want to affirm that we will continue to work with you going forward. In 2020, we will be starting the new Partnership for Learning for All in Nigeria, PLANE program, in collaboration with the federal government and targeted states and regional areas. And also, we will be starting a new UK-aid Skills for Prosperity program, recognizing the importance of skills and jobs for young people, as affirmed and promoted by the federal government. So I want to thank you very much for inviting us. I want to thank us all for being here, and to thank especially the Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission and his team for making this day happen, and all the efforts of everyone here present. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is not always that you say of public office holders that they are square pegs in square holes. Our next speaker is one. With several degrees, one in microbiology, resource management, and a PhD in watershed management, he understands the environment. No wonder he's the Honorable Minister of Environment. But besides that, he used to also be the chairman of the board of UBEC. So he loves the Nigerian children. He loves education. We're very happy he's here, committed as ever, patriotic as ever. Please join me as I welcome here the Honorable Minister of Environment, Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar. We welcome you, sir.
The Honorable Minister of Environment there. Let me bring to your notice that as the chairman of the Commission's board, he led a series of partners to monitor the 2018 National Personnel Audit. He was on the field with the personnel all through to ensure that we have a very successful exercise.
Of UBEC, directors, commissioners of education, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, good morning, afternoon. First of all, our immense gratitude to God Almighty for making the NPA possible, and also our president for his passion for education. Ladies and gentlemen, the NPA. For my time being in UBEC, even if it's the only thing that we have accomplished, I can say I have accomplished so much in UBEC. Why? Because the information gathered is the best, most comprehensive, exhaustive NPA since the establishment of UBEC, or maybe even the former Primary Education Board. Without information, we know we can't do much. And that has just been demonstrated by the grade 3 for using the data collected during the NPA to present the problems, but most importantly, the opportunities. Without the information, we can't do anything to fix the problems. For being part of the NPA at the time, as the former chairman of UBEC, I will mostly recognize and also appreciate those that have taken part during that NPA. Starting with the executive secretary, who has taken it personal at the time to make sure that this thing is done and is done well. And all other supporting staff and partners. We have walked, drove, and flew across the length and breadth of this country to make sure that the data that will be gathered is the most comprehensive to date. And I can say, with the help of all these people, that has been achieved. We were in every geopolitical zone of this country and on several grounds of primary and junior secondary schools, watching the National Space Agency taking the coordinates of those schools to make sure that we have them on map, we can see these schools, that will have the spatial distribution of where and where do we need more schools, just as it was demonstrated by the grade 3. This is not a small feat. And for this, I thank everybody that has taken part in the NPA. Most importantly, Mr. President, who has given his support, his passion, and continuous support for education, to the point that in the last counterpart funding, he deducted and remitted directly to UBEC the counterpart funding from state, because sometimes UBEC faces problems getting the counterpart funding. And I say, Mr. President, thank you, and please make it a rule or even a law that the money is sent to UBEC so that the sector of basic education will not suffer in any state of the country. As we all say, education for all is the responsibility of all. It is therefore our responsibility, every single one of us, to make sure that every child of school-going age has that basic education of 9 years. And don't forget, it is a law. It's free and it's compulsory. And there are provisions to reprimand, fine, or even jail parents or guardians that will not send their kids to school. And with the information that we have, now the government, from the federal to state and local government, will do whatever it takes to make sure we have those schools where they are supposed to be located, so that you will have no reason to not send your kids to school. I thank you very much for taking the time to come, and you can help in any way possible. The easiest, let's say you are passing through a primary school or junior secondary or any kind of school, simply removing any injurious piece of metal or anything that you can see in itself is participating in making sure education for all is the responsibility of all. Thank you very much, and God bless.
I like that. Education for all is the responsibility of all. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you. And so, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is a real asset to this nation. If you call him an asset to the collective, you'll be very right. He's a man of multiple skills: an accountant, a writer, a journalist, a public analyst, and today he's also our Honorable Minister of Education. Please join me as I welcome Malam Adamu. Adamu. I welcome you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before I read my address, I think I should tell you I'm not here because it is my event. I'm here because the president asked me to come and represent him. And if I'm representing the president, I think I can take some liberties. For instance, I will change the protocol. Let me start with the permission of the representatives of the National Assembly, because I should have started with them. I want to start recognizing Professor Pai Opania. Followed by Professor Gidado Tahir. Ladies and gentlemen, I do this because Professor Gidado Tahir is the father of the strategic plan whose child is this MPA we are launching today. And Professor Obanya has been and still is one of the greatest facilitators for what we are doing under that plan. So I welcome you, sir. Members of the National Assembly or their representatives, Minister of, let me start with my own Minister of State Education, Minister of Environment, and even though Pauline has gone, I think I have to recognize her for what you will hear. Pauline Talen, Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, is the matron of all out-of-school children in Nigeria. Yes, in fact, and in reality, and this is coming from her heart, and she is also the matron of the girl child. And third, Pauline has never failed to appear where education is. Sometimes it will be my event, I will invite her, but some will carry me away, but I will have that she would have come. Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, and other permanent secretaries here, commissioners, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And also before I start, I want to know why Professor Aminu Bichi doesn't like to be referred as a professor. Is he here? Do you have a reason or... You know why I ask you? Anybody who was in ABU in 1975 and who normally used to go to public lectures will know there was a time Professor Chike Obi was invited by one of the clubs in ABU to a lecture, and the chairman was Yusuf Bala Usman. So Yusuf Bala Usman rose to introduce him. Then he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Dr. Chike Obi." He went on saying many of his qualities. Then he came back. He said, "I hope you noted I said Dr. Chike Obi, not Professor Chike Obi." Then he paused. He said, "I did this because any fool can be a professor. But a doctor, you have to work for it." Why I'm saying this? You know, Prof, if you don't like to be referred to as a professor, it means there is still a problem in the universities. And I just thought we had done a little bit to tidy up things. Is that your reason, sir? Why is he? Is your reason? I'm very, very unhappy because it means we haven't done anything. Still the situation is like it was 1975. Okay, so thank you very much. Also, before I read, when Hamid Boboy brought the recommendation or the request that I should approve for this MPA to begin, and I did. Believe me, at that time, I didn't know it is going to be so comprehensive, so good, so up to date, and so cost effective. Now I'm very happy because, you know, anytime we go to international conferences, as Minister of Nigeria, anytime I come, my head is always like this. Because there are no figures for Nigeria. No figures at all for Nigeria. The other thing that will make my head go down is the number of out-of-school children. But this one is even more important. But I believe what we have seen today, I believe we are just at the end of this shameful thing for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present this address on the occasion of the launching of 2018 National Personnel Audit Report, which was conducted by UBEC. I feel highly honored to represent Mr. President